Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the BC Refugee Hub's webinar entitled, What are refugee claimants eligible for during the claim process? My name is Farah Kotadia, Program Director at AMSA, and I will be guiding us through today's event. The BC Refugee Hub would like to thank AMSA for hosting this webinar and providing technical support for this online session. The BC Refugee Hub would like to gratefully acknowledge the financial support of the Province of British Columbia through the Ministry of Jobs, Trade and Technology. The BC Refugee Hub is funded by the Province of British Columbia and administered by the Immigrant Services Society of BC, or ISS of BC. This webinar topic has been informed by a feedback survey conducted with the settlement and integration sector by the BC Refugee Hub. Many survey respondents expressed a need for training and up-to-date information on the claim process and what services and programs claimants are eligible for, along with more detailed information on the eligibility and application process for social assistance for refugee claimants. Many also expressed the need for regular trainings like this for staff as an ongoing professional development. This webinar is suitable for those working in frontline positions, coordinators and managers at settlement service provider agencies, as well as community stakeholders who work with and support refugee claimants from the time they come to BC, during their claim process, and up until a claim decision is received. Today's webinar provides an overview of the claim process and timeline of activities for claimants, and will go into great detail about what services and programs refugee claimants are and are not eligible for during the claim process, along with eligibility and application processes. In addition, the webinar will review social assistance for refugee claimants, the application process, eligibility, and answer many questions about social assistance for claimants. We will also review resources related to these topics available from AMSA and the BC Refugee Hub. I would now like to introduce our speakers for today. Bahar Tahiri, Project Consultant from the BC Refugee Hub, will present on Hub website update and navigation. Sabrina Dimitra, Settlement Coordinator of AMSA, will review AMSA's webinar, Settlement Needs of Refugee Claimants. Nasra Mire, Manager, and Miaid Al-Harbi, Refugee Claimant Service Worker, as well as Enrique Lopez, Community Case Manager with Settlement Orientation Services, will present on what are refugee claimants eligible for during the claim process. And finally, we will have Claudia Buenida, Employment and Assistance Worker, Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction, presenting on social assistance for refugee claimants. We will have a short Q&A session at the end of each presentation. If we do not get to your question during the webinar, we will answer the questions afterwards. Bahar will compile all questions and research answers and post them to the BC Refugee Hub along with the PowerPoint deck, handouts, and the webinar video. A reminder that you can send your questions to us at any time during the presentations. Please send your questions using the question box or email your questions to events@amsa.org. First up, we have Bahar Tahiri from the BC Refugee Hub providing a short overview of the Hub, recent updates, and resource releases.
Hi everyone. The aim of the BC Refugee Hub is to be a one-stop online hub for all information and resources available to better support refugees residing in BC. The BC Refugee Hub, formerly known as the ISSOBC Refugee Readiness Hub, was created in 2015 with funding from the province of BC's Refugee Readiness Fund. The original hub was targeted only at those sponsoring and supporting Syrian refugees. This mandate has now been extended to include information on all refugee categories. Currently, we are especially focused on expanding resources and trainings related to refugee claimants. The information on the hub is presented in multiple ways. Under the Resource Center, the Resource Center can be searched by three main headings: topics, refugee category, and region. Information is further broken down into different sections or categories under the three headings. Users can view publications, success stories, trainings, and events in the main navigation bar, and also on the right-hand side here. This information is also posted on the main page at the very bottom, so you can see all the newest updates right here. If we go into the What's New section, this is everything that's been posted recently. If you click on View All, you can see everything that we've recently posted. I'll just go back. So we've recently posted 3 new items that the BC Refugee Hub has developed. The first one is the FAQ on refugee claimants in BC. This is a working document, so I'll be updating it based on the questions we receive at our webinars and from our surveys. The next update and release will be in January. The next item is right here in the middle, the quarterly bulletin on refugee claimants in BC for July to September 2018. Where we've compiled stats on claimant arrivals in BC, as well as settlement patterns, skills inventory highlights, and more. The third item here we have is an info sheet on the refugee claim process that covers the timeline of activities for refugee claimants from the time they enter Canada to the time they receive a decision on their claim. We just updated this one in September. So as I was showing you earlier, if you click, sorry, I just have to go up, here we go. If you click on View All, you can see that our latest fact sheet, or our latest bulletin is under fact sheet here, but can also be searched under refugee claimants too. So if you click here. All resources are posted this way, so you can find them in multiple ways. You can also search the search bar at the top to look for something specific, for example, refugee employment. So I'll just show you that. And then it pulls up everything in the hub that relates to refugee employment or was tagged under employment. The hub is updated on a weekly basis. And information is regularly being added and reviewed. We are very active on social media, so follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for all the new updates. On the homepage at the very bottom here, let's go back to the homepage. Right here. So this is where you can go to join our e-newsletter list. We send out newsletters bi-monthly, and at the very top or at the bottom there, you could see our social media accounts here. You can email me directly at refugeehub@issbc.org. I'm happy to connect with you for any collaborations to promote your resources, workshops, and events related to refugees in BC, or create a resource that is not currently available but is needed to better support clients. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Bahar. Up next, we have Sabrina Dimitra from AMSA, who will give us an overview of AMSA's webinar entitled Settlement Needs for Refugee Claimants. Welcome, Sabrina.
Thank you, Farah. Welcome. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to briefly share some high-level points that were shared during a webinar that AMSA hosted, and that really aligns with all the content and the webinar that's being shared today. So this webinar was one, and that it was titled "The Settlement Needs of Refugee Claimants," was hosted earlier in the year by AMSA, and this was a topic that was requested by settlement service providers. And I would like to, at this time, also gratefully acknowledge that this webinar received the financial support of the province of British Columbia, the Ministry of Jobs, Trade and Technology, and it was one where the content was really geared towards the refugee claim process, including timelines and delays. So some of the topics that were discussed during that webinar specifically are: who are refugees? What is the terminology in terms of what is a protected person, asylum seeker, refugee claimant? How can a refugee make a claim? What is a third country, the Safe Third Country Agreement? What is the Immigration and Refugee Board, and how can refugee claimants prepare for the hearing? Terminology that we've heard, such as designated country of origin, basis of claim. So these are all various different things that we hear when it comes in connection with refugee claimants, and so many of these topics were explained during the webinar. As well, during the webinar, services that refugee claimants are eligible for were shared, such as services that refugee claimants can receive prior to making the claim. Some of the settlement orientation services, SOS's groups were shared during the webinar. Assistance with paperwork and how settlement organizations can assist refugee claimants and the support that they can receive was discussed. And also the services that refugee claimants can receive during their claim process, as well as some referral suggestions and ideas for legal support, food, and clothing. Another topic that was discussed during that webinar was the Ready Tours. And so the Ready Tours are tours that are designed to educate and orientate refugee claimants in preparation for their hearing. And these are tours that are available at the Immigration and Refugee Board here in Vancouver, and they're free of charge. You would just need to register to attend one. And during those tours, you go into an actual refugee hearing room, and you meet staff and learn what happens. And so that is explained more in detail during that webinar, as well as 2 support groups for refugee claimants were introduced and expanded upon. One of them was a refugee claimant support group that hosted by VAST, the Vancouver Association for Survivors of Torture, called Getting Through It, which is a trauma-informed psychosocial support group for refugee claimants, as well as another support group that Mosaic hosts specifically for LGBTQ+ refugees, entitled the I Belong group. And so during that webinar, we had various different speakers, and who I just want to also thank and acknowledge that they presented all this amazing sharing during this webinar, and just to thank them. And I would like to encourage you to go to the AMSA website where the recording is listed, and Bahar will be sharing that recording and the link with everyone following the webinar. And so I just wanted to encourage and really share this webinar as I feel this really builds upon what is being discussed here today. And just finally, before I end my presentation, I also just wanted to share an upcoming webinar that may be of value to participants listening to today's webinar. So AMSA is, in collaboration with PIRS, is hosting a webinar next week, Thursday, November 8th, from 9:30 till 11 a.m., entitled Community-Based Training for Working with Immigrants and Refugees, a Trauma-Informed Approach. So this is a webinar that's really going to be looking at a trauma-informed approach in terms of working with refugees. And so this is one that will help educators and other practitioners understand how trauma affects learning and how trauma can be a barrier for students in the classroom learning English or receiving settlement supports. And so you'll learn some practical tools to address trauma, as well as some important guidelines for self-care. So this is one I just wanted to highlight, and Bahar will be sharing that with you as well. And so I just want to say thank you, and you have my contact information there if you have any further questions.
Thanks very much, Sabrina. We do have time for questions, so if you have something you'd like to ask of Sabrina, please send your questions using the question box, or you can email them to events@amsa.org. And we have one question here. How can people register for the webinar?
So for the webinar that's taking place next week, Bahar will be sharing that with everyone.
Great, thank you.
Right, so join the mailing list, and Bahar will definitely make sure you get it.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thanks very much, Sabrina. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay, I would now like to introduce our next speakers, Nasra Mire, Nied Al-Harbi, and Enrique Lopez from Settlement Orientation Services, or SOS, as we know them, presenting on what refugee claimants are eligible for during the claim process. Welcome.
Thank you, Farah. Good afternoon. My name is Nasra Meyer. I am the SOS manager, and SOS stands for Settlement Orientation Services. And we will be speaking on what are the refugee claimants eligible for during the claimant process. So, so I'm here with two of my colleagues, and they will introduce themselves. But I will start off with ISS of BC's partnership with SOS. SOS was founded about 25 years ago, starting with working with the Latin community, then moving to the Chinese community. SOS was founded as a service hub in response to the increased numbers of refugee claimants arriving in Vancouver, specific to South America. SOS has translated as a program of ISS of BC and its longstanding sponsorship agency. SOS and ISS BC have been collaborating for many years in support of refugees. SOS specifically is working with refugee claimants. And we're continuing this relationship by providing services through our service hub known as the Welcome Home, the Welcome House. So the SOS team has 6 settlement workers, Arabic speaker, settlement worker, a Farsi speaker, settlement worker, and then we've also have settlement workers who also speak French, Dari, and Spanish. We have 2 health promotion and case managers or management, and then 2 housing search workers. The questions. Who is a refugee? Someone who can't return to his or her country of origin, are facing or escaping torture or the risk to their lives. The next question is what you need to start a refugee claimant in Canada. So you need to show who you are and why you are asking for protection. Who, you must have at least one original identity document. So an ID from your original country or country of origin, for example, passport, travel document, birth certificate, marriage certificate, school records, or a voting registry card. If you do not have any of these, you need to ask someone from your country to send you one. Immigration officers will keep the original copies of these documents and then provide you with a copy. Number 3, what are the applications you need to fill out and who can help? So you need to fill out a generic application, Schedule A, Schedule 12, and your basic of claims. So number 4, what are the differences between legible interview and hearing? So your legible interview is that you are granted the opportunity to be heard. And then your hearing, you're either granted or not granted protection in Canada. So if you're not granted protection in Canada, you have a few options of appeal. And so here's a chart that outlines the process of claiming refugees. So the port of entry process, you make a claim at the airport or at an office at a border crossing to the CBSA. Once you've made that claim, then you can apply for legal aid. You fill out the basic claims and then the 3 initial forms. SOS can provide the support to fill out the 3 initial forms, but with the basic claim, you need the support of a lawyer. The inland process can be made either by an international student or by a person who's carrying a visiting visa. From that process, you can apply for legal aid, make the claim at the CIC office, and then again submit your basic of claim and then your 3 initial forms. And then the process of claiming refugee, after you submit the BOC through the support of a lawyer, you'll either be the decision will be made whether you're eligible or not eligible. If you've been eligible, you receive a date for your hearing, you attend your hearing day, and then your claim will either be accepted or your claim will be denied. If you're not eligible, then you need to seek legal help and get advice on whether or not you've been, or why you have not been accepted. I'm going to pass it on to my colleague here.
All right. Thanks, Masra. Hi, everyone. This is Mia Del Harbi. I'm a resettlement, I'm a refugee claimant settlement worker at the Settlement Orientation Service, and I'm going to cover basically the question of the webinar, which is what are the refugee claimants are eligible for during the process of a claim. As many of you who have been working with the refugee claimants know that the main challenge refugee claimants are facing is the limitation of services available for them, comparing with the services available for other stream of refugees, government-assisted refugees, and privately sponsored refugee or before. Another challenge is the long processing time for application and the delay in the hearing, which add more stress to the refugee claimant journey in Canada. So I'm going to cover those 2 components in my presentation. And to make it easier to follow, I'm gonna divide the settlement services into 3 phases as we move forward. The first phase, which is the pre-claim settlement service, that includes the time before the applicants make a claim and become a refugee claimant in Canada. At this point, applicants need more information about the refugee claim process. They are eligible to receive a refugee claim orientation, which cover the process and services available for refugee claimants. This can be quite useful for all intended claimants, and specifically for inland claim, for people who came to Canada with a student visa or a visitor visa and found themselves in a very tough situation, cannot return to their country of origin, and they have an intention to claim refugee in Canada. So we provide a Saturday settlement refugee claim orientation, where we guide claimants through the process of claiming refugee and help them to navigate the system and answer all their questions and concerns, so they can make a very well-informed decision. You are welcome to refer your client to SOS Settlement and Health Orientations, which runs every Saturday from 10 to 12 o'clock. For a client who came directly from the port of entry, whether it's at the airport or USA border, and haven't made a claim at CBSA, a client are eligible to receive a settlement support with filling out the refugee claim, refugee claim initial forms, which include the generic application, Schedule A, Schedule 12. It's very important that claimants seek a legal assistance as the process is quite complicated. Legal counsel can be found through the legal aid offices, and many claimants will need to seek this assistance to cover the costs of filling out the basis of a claim and being represented by a lawyer at the hearing day. A claimant can apply for a legal aid at the following organization in BC: which is the Legal Aid Society and the Pro Bono Access lawyer. In terms of housing, prior to receiving the official refugee claimant ID, the main option for housing are shelters and the alternative transition housing. A client also can call BC 211 at any time requesting information regarding the availability of shelters. A client also can request the service in their own language, in their own languages if they have a limited English language skills. I have included the list of shelters in the reference. It's updated probably twice a day. Moving to the next step, which is the services we provide during the process of claiming refugee. Once a client submitted the forms, the three initial forms and the basis of a claim, and they completed the eligibility interview with RCC or CBSA, they will have an ID called Refugee Protection Claimant Document. This ID means that they are officially a refugee claimant. Now, unlike government-assisted refugees who have IFH in a separate document, refugee claimants will have the interim federal health included in the ID. The IFH plan will provide an immediate temporary coverage of health care benefits. Also in the reference, I have included the list of IFH providers across BC. Back to the date when a claimant received the refugee ID, at this point, the most important thing that a settlement worker can do is to assist the client to book an appointment for immigration medical exam, which is requested by RCC and covered by IFH. Client must get the exam done within the 30 days to submit the 30 days from the day that they receive the ID. IMA is covered for one time only, and it's and only designated doctors can complete the IMA. And I've included the link for the list of doctors who provide this service in the reference. I have to mention here that not all the services are provided by SOS and ISS of BC. We work and cooperate with other service providers across the mainland, the lower mainland. Also, one of the services that refugee claimants are eligible to is social assistance. If the income claimant brings to Canada is not enough to support them, they might be able to apply for social assistance, which also known as welfare. Social assistance or welfare is monthly allowance for individuals or family to assist them in the cost of food, shelters, and transportation. The hardship allowance is for essential needs only, and the applicants will need to receive their immigration documents before applying for the social assistance. I have also to mention here that receiving welfare does not have any impact on the hearing decision for for the claim process. And more details will be provided by about the social assistance will be provided in the next presentation. Also, refugee claimants are eligible to receive disability benefit if they meet the requirement. Now, you might see some resistance from doctors to assist refugee claimants in the disability application because many of them think that refugee claimants are not eligible for disability. But actually, they are eligible, but it might need some advocacy work from frontline workers. The next services that refugee claimants are eligible for is to open a bank account. A claimant will need to bring to a government issued ID, and SOS has a partnership with Vancity to make the process of opening the bank account for refugee claimant as seamless as possible. Van City staff are more familiar in working with refugees and immigrants. Van City staff will usually deliver a more comprehensive financial orientation to refugee claimants, explaining to them the Canadian banking system and everything that newcomers and refugee needs to know regarding the financial and the banking in Canada. They are also able to apply for a credit card and a Van City loan, which we are going to talk more about it later. Housing assistance. After receiving the ID, the options for housing for refugee claimants are renting affordable rooms or shared accommodation based on the funds that they come to Canada with, or a social assistance. Also, they also can communicate with BC 211 to find available shelters. Currently, we are working with Airbnb to find a temporary accommodation for a single and couples. We have not finalized the partnership with Airbnb. Still, it's in the process, and we will post all service provider about the service as soon as it's finalized. Refugee claimants are also eligible to apply for BC housing during the claim process. We will need their ID, a rental contract, and a proof of income, and social assistance can be a proof of income. BC housing is very limited, and a priority is given to high needs individuals. SOS Housing Search Worker can help and assist refugee claimants with housing leads. So please feel free to refer your clients if you need any help. The contact information for our housing search worker Rami is posted. Next, the work permit. After getting the exam done, we need to wait 10 days to apply for the work permit. And the reason behind the 10 days is to give more time for a clinic to transfer the medical exam report to IRCC so we can submit the application. There are two ways to apply for work permit, either by online, which it takes 66 days, or by mail, which is going to take 180 days according to IRCC website. So we usually normally help the clients with the online applications. There is no fees to apply for a work permit for refugee claimants and a protected person. However, claimants who had a negative notice of decision and they are in the appeal process, they are required to pay some fees to extend their open work permit. Claimants who come from a designated country of origin, they can apply for the work permit after 180 days passing since their claim was referred to IRB. They cannot apply to work permit once they have the ID. Only designated claimants from designated country of origin. Once the client receives the work permit, they can obtain social insurance number from the Service Canada to start work legally in Canada. Once the client receives the work permit and have an income, they are also eligible to apply for a medical service plan, which is called health care card. If claimants apply for the MSP through the regular process, they need to pay the monthly fee. Also, claimants are eligible to obtain the British Columbia ID from ICBC, so they can use it as a primary ID instead of using the refugee protection claimant documents. Refugee claimants who have children at the school age, they are eligible to attend the public elementary and high school free of charge after they have a permanent residence, of course. Also, refugee claimants who are interested in attending university, college, and pursuing higher education, they are eligible to apply for a study permit. If they haven't had their hearing yet, they will be considered an international student in terms of the tuition fees. They have to apply for a study permit in order to apply for the permit, they need an admission or acceptance letter from the university or the school. Some programs do not require a study permit, so claimants are really encouraged to communicate with the academic advisor at the university that they aim to attend the program and to check if the program requires a study permit or not. Refugee claimants who have not received a positive decision on their refugee status, they cannot take the linking classes. This is one of the biggest challenge that refugee claimants are not eligible to attend linking classes. However, there is free or low-cost English classes provided by many organizations. Provided by many organizations. Also, there is Adult Education Center in Metro Vancouver who provide English classes for refugee claimants during the claim process as a substitute for the linking classes. And the quality of the classes are quite high. For claimants who are in a curriculum, if a refugee claimant has a child attending school, they are eligible to attend the linking classes as well, only in curriculum. All right. In terms of employment, once the clients have a valid work permit, refugee claimants are eligible for career counseling service. We have at the ISSBC Job Quest program, which includes one-on-one and a group session that helps claimants to learn more about how to apply for a work permit in Canada and the hiring practices, how to build a job research and learn more about the interview skills, how to create Canadian-style resume and cover letters, and understand more about the workplace expectations and employment rights. Also, they can be referred to training programs and employer and job fairs. Since there is a lot of stress associated with the refugee claimant process, refugee claimants are eligible to receive a mental health support and counseling service from Vancouver Association for the Survivor of Torture. VAST runs a weekly trauma-informed support group, which provide an integrated approach addressing the immediate mental health and settlement needs of refugees in their first few months in Canada. The group, called Getting Through It, meets every Wednesday from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock, and sessions are held in multiple languages. Also, if claimants need a one-on-one counseling session, they can request that from VAST. Another program that is quite important for refugee claimants during the refugee claim process is Ready Tour. Ready Tour is a free program that's organized by Immigration Refugee Board and facilitated by Kempress. The program helps claimants to clarify many of the questions that they have about their refugee hearing. The Ready Tours offer refugee claimants the opportunity to enter a refugee hearing room and learn more about the refugee hearing process and the determinations concept. The requirement to join this tour is to have an ID and to register online for the session. Also, translation and interpretation are provided. It's held twice a month. It's quite helpful. I cannot emphasize how how important this program is, and always our clients have claimants have a very positive feedback about it. The next service that refugee claimants are eligible for, specifically senior refugee claimants who are income assistance, they are eligible to apply for reduced cost BAS pass or Compass card. The requirement is only to be 6 years or older and receive an income assistance from the Provincial of British Columbia. You can apply online for the Compass card, and the processing time is 5 weeks. Recreation Center. Refugee claimants who are on income assistance are eligible to access services in the community center and the recreation center close to them. We always encourage them to enroll in some activities to help with the stress and the longer process of claiming refugee. Pharmacare and family doctors. Refugee claimants are eligible to apply for pharmacare if they need, and they can have a family doctor as well if they are able to find the doctors. So just to sum it up, from the time refugee claimant receives the refugee ID till the hearing day, which can take up to 20 months, almost 2 years, claimants are eligible to work, study, receive legal, income, and housing assistance. They are also able to enroll their children in school. They are eligible to access employment service and receive counseling support to assist them through the refugee claimant process. And most importantly, they have an access for medical service through IFH or MSP. Now moving to the next phase, the last phase, which is the post-claim. Clients who have a positive notice of decision and became a protected person or conventional refugee are eligible to apply for a permanent residence application. They can apply for the PR after 15 days from the day that they become a protected person if the minister didn't appeal the decision. A protected person can include their family member who living abroad in the application, and the family member can be the spouse, common law partner, or dependent children. There is a fee for the PR application, which is $550 for adults and $150 for dependents under the 22. We noticed that many claimants many protected person who are on social assistance cannot afford the fees. So they can apply for a Van City permanent resident loan. Van City loan does not require to have a credit history or an income. Claimants are in income assistance can apply for that. The interest rate is 7.95%, and the payment plan is quite flexible. They can negotiate that with the Van City staff. Child tax benefits and child care subsidies. Protected persons are eligible to apply for those application and programs. And I'm pretty sure settlement workers are familiar with these applications. Also, protected person or conventional refugee are eligible to enroll in the Linky classes, which is stands for language instruction for newcomers to Canada. And also, refugee claimants are eligible to apply for travel documents. During the refugee claim process, they cannot travel, but after they become a protected person, they can apply for the travel documents and travel to all countries except their country of citizenship. The processing time is between 1 month to 3 months, and there is a fee for the travel documents. protected person and conventional refugee who are interested to enroll in university are eligible to and cannot afford paying the tuition. They are eligible to apply for a student loan. Employment programs. Once claimant receives a positive notice of decision, they can access the extended employment services provided by the several settlement agency in Lower Mainland. Post-claim. If a claimant received a negative notice of decision, they need to consult with a lawyer to see what are the options to appeal. During the appeal process, claimants are eligible to work and receive income assistance. So the last thing I wanted to give you an idea about is the processing time for application according to RCC website. So for the work permit application, if you apply online, it's gonna take 66 days, and if we apply by mail, by paper, it's gonna take 130 days. For study permit, it's gonna take 5 weeks, and for the PR application, it's gonna take 30 months. And the time from the claimant receive the ID to the hearing date can be up to 20 months. So that's quite long. Finally, I'm gonna transfer. I'm gonna let my coworker Inariki speak more about the health component and the services available for HIV LGBT community.
Hi, how are you? My name is Enrique Lopez. I'm Community Case Manager at SOS. Basically, what we're doing in the health program is try to meet the needs in the health part of the process. As you can tell, it's a long process for the refugee claimants until they get their PR. But in some cases, we have to stop and try to go with some clients in a more personal way. As you tell that when the clients got the immigration document, they also have to make immigration medical exams, which in order to get to work they need to be held. So there's 3 tests that they need to pass when it's syphilis, tuberculosis, and HIV. The tuberculosis, they focus more on tuberculosis because it's easier to pass the tuberculosis in a public place, and if they work and they need to be healthy. But when people, in this case, refugee claimants who they have already a difficult time coming here, doing all this process, and on top of that, they have a positive results on HIV. It could be a little bit more difficult for them to overcome the situation if they come with families, if they come with partners, or so any of these situations is difficult. So we partnered with AIDS Vancouver and Living Positive, and we also support our clients, taking them to the services that are available. And we're lucky that we have the Center for Excellence in Vancouver at St. Paul's Hospital. So many of our clients are referred to that center where they get all the medications and tests and everything that what as much as they need. Also, our program is focused on refugee claimants, but it's more open. We also help people that need support in HIV issues or derivatives. So it's so that's why a little bit hectic this program. And we have the other program where my colleague Byron figure out. We have he does the pre and post counseling for before they go to the HIV test, and when the results are positive, clients might have an idea about what is what is next. So so basically, it's what we're doing in the program. We have every month we have a support group for people with HIV in Spanish. We're gonna try to do it probably in the future. One is more as a more multicultural, and what else? And but just to like part of the details of the and the tricks of the health coverage, it's very important that our clients, once they got the work permit, they have 45 days to switch for the provincial um, coverage, health coverage. So in some cases, when they still on welfare, we refer them to these ladies, and well, they see that there's a way to work. And when they have already when they're working, they will help them to do as soon as possible, because if they don't do that, they will obviously the coverage will be difficult to get, and also because they need to know, they need to update their work permit, because the work permit, the social insurance number, and the MSP, the three of them, they have the same, they have expired. So, and the ones that dictate the expiry date is the work permit. So, it's important that if you have clients with work permits, make sure that they have applied for a renewal. And basically, that will be it from my part. But any question, please don't hesitate, and I'll be here to help you if I can.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nazra, Miad, and Enrique. We really appreciate you coming and presenting to us today. We will have a short Q&A session now. And again, please send us your questions using the box or to events@amsa.org. We already have quite a few questions. So the first one is regarding legal aid. Are there instances where claimants could be denied legal aid?
Yes.
Okay, could you explain a bit, Nazra?
Yes, so there are times where legal aid has taken on so many clients at this point that sometimes there's a lag and there's a waiting list. And so we do work with Pro Bono Access, who is coming back and providing us with support to help us with clients who have been denied by legal aid. But we do notice that some of our clients, not all of our clients, do get denied by legal aid. But the question really is specific to the client. Why did they get denied? Okay. And again, that's a confidentiality issue. Right. So it's up to the client to kind of discuss those matters with us, so we can further support them or find them the right support. So
also, if they've been denied by legal aid, they can appeal the decision, and the check what are the reasons and they clarify the reasons. Yeah.
Okay.
Also, if they don't get the appeal of the lawyer, they can also go through the process by themselves. And we have some clients that they've been success, and they present by themselves. They know their case, and it will be a little bit more difficult because they don't have the guide that the lawyer provides, but they are allowed to do by themselves.
Private lawyers. They can actually pay for lawyers as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Private lawyers.
Okay. Thank you. The next question is, will these slides be shared with participants? Yes, we will send them out via email with the evaluation link, and they will be posted on the BC Refugee Hub as well. Okay, and the next question is, can you please speak more about the Adult Education Center that is providing English classes for refugee claimants?
Okay, there is a list. There's a couple of adult education centers in Metro Vancouver, Burnaby, Surrey, Coquitlam, who provide these classes. It's more full time. It's not like the other free classes provided by other organizations. It's more a full time, 5 times a week, and for 2 hours. Refugee claimants can do an assessment, English assessment, that they can pay probably $20 to do the exam, and then the rest of the course for 4 months or 6 months is free.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. The next question is, are refugee claimants with study permits considered domestic or international students?
Sorry, the question?
Are refugee claimants with study permits
Mm-hmm.
considered domestic or international
Yes,
students?
international.
International, yeah, I would
Yeah.
think so. Great. What medical services can sorry, you wanted to add to that?
Yeah.
No, okay, go ahead.
So they'll be considered an international student until they get their PR or they become citizens.
Until they become a protected person.
Yeah, so even before that, so they can become a protective person, and then when they do, then they can become a domestic student. So a lot of times, settlement workers will encourage them to wait until they're done their process to go to
After the hearing, yeah.
because it's less. They'll pay less, expensive.
And also they can have a student loan. They can apply for a student loan.
Okay. Great. Thank you. The next question is, what medical services can refugee claimants access before having their ID number, for example, in the pre-claim stage?
It's difficult I mean, if they need an emergency, they please go to the nearest hospital and get treated. And we have an expert in our team, Byron, which is really good fighting for those causes. And but yes, we also it's a little bit to assess because we have I don't remember the name of the organization, but it's also by just another Byron Cruz, who has been very helpful with us. There's a bunch of volunteers, nurses, doctors, that they provide their services for people that they don't have status or they are in this process waiting for the document that provides health. And depending of the situation, they can provide free consult and there's difficult for them to provide tests or studies that require more equipment. But yeah, if you have clients in that situation, let us know and we could figure out how to help them.
Great. Thank you. Oh, we have so many questions here. Okay. Does SOS work with GARs and privately sponsored refugees?
No, we
No.
don't.
Okay.
Our mandate is only for refugee claimants.
Only for
But
refugees.
if they have HIV or they have dealing with that that part, we help them.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Are they eligible for MSP premium?
Yes. Which one is that? Is that the
We'll talk about that in the next presentation.
Yeah? Okay. So that'll be answered in the next presentation. Thank you. All the refugee claimants can get work permits. What is the reason? So if refugee claimants cannot get a work permit, what's the reason for being rejected?
I don't think that there is any claimants will be rejected for applying for refugee for a work permit.
It could take longer if they have let's say tuberculosis and they need to get treatment. So it will take 1 month or 9 months in some cases. Sometimes clients or they applied or they've been here before and they try to come back again. So in that case, they try to make the refugee claim again. So in that case, it's difficult to get work permits. But it's more like a specific situation, but
So
usually
they
all
can
of them.
apply. They can even if they have been here in Canada and they are in a pre-removal risk assessment.
Yeah,
They still can apply, but they have to pay.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Only refugee claimants, protected person who do not pay any fees.
Okay, great, thank you. Is a claimant eligible for the LINK program?
No,
No, right?
unfortunately.
Yeah, I think you
this
mentioned
is
that before.
yeah.
Okay, great. For unaccompanied minors claiming refuge, is the process the same? And are there specific services geared towards youth claimants? Everyone is stumped here. That's a great question.
That's a very specific question, so we're going to have to get back to you on that one.
Okay. Great. No, thank you. Yeah. So as mentioned before, Bahar is going to make sure that all of these questions are written down, and whatever is not answered, we will get back to you on that. Can the children of claimants register for school, and if so, when?
As soon as they have the refugee document.
As soon as they have their documents.
Yeah, and they find a place. Very important.
And they have an address.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Who is giving housing services for refugee claimants before they have ID or even after they have ID?
SOS at this point. Inland has closed, and so we have two housing search workers who are working tirelessly to try to find housing for refugee claimants. So we are, if they don't have the right paperwork or don't have welfare yet, we provide them with access to the shelters through BC 211. And then when they do have some little bit of money, we try to see what we can do with that. At this point, it's one of our biggest concerns and one of the things that we're tackling.
Great, thank you. We wanted to mention that VAST is also hosting Getting Through It. It's a session in Surrey in partnership with Options Community Services, and it will be held at the Surrey City Library. You can find more information about this on the BC Refugee Hub under the category Refugee Claimants. Okay, so I think just in the interest of time, we're going to end the Q&A period for now, and like we said, we will make sure that we have all these questions and people can look back to see the answers. So I would now like to move to our final presentation for this afternoon. Claudia Buendia is the Employment and Assistance Worker for the Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction. She will review with us the social assistance eligibility and application process for refugee claimants. Welcome, Claudia.
Thank you. Yes, well, my name is Claudia Buendia, as you said, Employment and Assistance Worker with the Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction, and we will talk about the general information about the process of application for income assistance. Just want to keep everyone to keep in mind that this is general information, and we really assess every situation case by case. Let's start with page number 2 of the presentation. Next one. Who is eligible for income assistance? So people that are out of work or earning very little. In this case, we will assess the amount of money that they are earning and compare with our rates to make sure that they are not making more money than what they would get if they were on income assistance. If they are, they might not be eligible for assistance, but again, we will review case by case. People waiting for other income, in this case could be employment insurance, waiting for old age pension, waiting for WCB, ICBC claims, etc. People unable to work, that includes refugee claimants. People in immediate need of food, shelter, or urgent medical attention, or parents caring, like taking care of their children, and we consider dependent children that the majority of age in British Columbia is 19 years of age, and it's important to keep that in mind because it's different from the legislation regarding dependent children from IRCC. Please note that children must be presently residing in British Columbia to be added to the file. That I think there was a question in the last session about unaccompanied minors. if they are not in Canada with the person, like the parents are applying for income assistance, but the children are not here, even if we add them to the file, there will be no active until they are actually present living in British Columbia. So, next page about who is eligible. How is eligibility determined? Eligibility is income and assets tested. That means we will see how much money or income or assets the person has. Some assets that the ministry, some of the areas that the ministry will verify are, first, we will look for an identification. For refugee claimants, it will be the IMM 1442. Usually that's the document that we see. I have seen other documents being used, but most likely that will be the document that we require. They can have other immigration documents if applicable. They can still use their passport from the country of origin, but that will be a secondary ID. They must have that primary identification issued by immigration. Bank statements if they have bank accounts, all type of income that apply, for example, confirmation of ending their GAR support, when they receive money from the federal government. We need that letter that they receive at the end saying how much money the last check was and for what period of time. So to ensure that they are not receiving income at the time of application and that will be not over a rate. We will talk about assets and property, and that includes inside or outside Canada, and the definition of assets that we use is anything that can be converted into cash, right? It could be yearly, it could be stocks, but, any type of valuables. And we do understand that sometimes, even though refugee claimants might have assets outside Canada, they could not have access to them because of whatever reason they left the country. So that will be taken into consideration and will be assessed case by case. It still needs to be declared by the applicant. Rental information, if they are renting a place, we will assess so that we can also provide if they are eligible for rental portion. Workers might ask for additional information if it's necessary, right? Okay, the next page actually shows the document that usually we need for clients to present as the primary ID. That is the Refugee Protection Claim document. As you see, it has to have a picture, and the picture, and I will mention that in the next slide, actually has to be visible and clear. Sometimes clients provide really bad copies. They are not acceptable because this is the main document we need to see. At the top right, you see that it has the name, last name, date of birth, and important is the expiration date of that document. That needs to be valid. Next slide. Refugee claimants applicants must obtain their immigration document before applying for income assistance. I cannot stress that enough. They cannot apply before. We don't want them to apply because reality, we will have to hold that file until they get the documentation. We cannot proceed further. The immigration document should be clear, not blurry or illegible documents or copies will be accepted. We prefer them to come to the office with an original and we will make copies of it if they cannot do it on their own. The income assistance application, if they apply online, should be completed using the name and last names matching the immigration document. This note is because I've seen a lot of clients telling us, oh, but my name is not correct. They made a mistake in the immigration document. This is my real name or my real date of birth. Regardless of those discrepancies, we want clients to apply with whatever is in the immigration document because it's their valid ID in Canada. If they need to make any corrections, they will have to do it with immigration directly. Once that is corrected, then we will be able to make changes in our files if we need to. Date of birth, this is the same, of applicants also should match the immigration document regardless of discrepancies between those and applicants' actual dates of birth. I've seen a lot of cases in which the immigration officer assigns everyone January 1st. It might or might not be accurate, but again, we have to go with the immigration document. The immigration document should still be valid, not expired. If the document is expired, the worker will need to contact, we have a specific department in our ministry that contacts immigration. We'll still be able to know if the person has a valid immigration status in Canada, but that can delay the process. So try to avoid, having applicants that have expired documentation. The picture of the immigration document should be clear. Every member of the family, this is very important, every member of the family unit must have their own immigration document and be presently residing in British Columbia at the time of application. If they come to apply and they say, my spouse is coming next month, we have to wait until the spouse comes to actually add her to the file. Refugee claimants applicants can apply as soon as they have their immigration document issued if they are unable to meet the financial needs. Not income, no assets. And in this case, we want to clarify that not every refugee claimant should be applying for income assistance. Yes, they can apply, doesn't mean they will be eligible, because if they have means to support themselves, they try to exhaust those means first. Once they have used their own money, and I've seen a lot of refugee claimants that come with thousands of dollars, then they need to use that money, and then they can apply for income assistance. Dependent children should not be over 19 years of age to be assessed as part of the family unit. Adult children should complete their application on their own. That means, yes, they can still be eligible, but they will have a separate file. The application process. Next slide. Applying for income assistance includes 2 stages. I have 3 here, but it's really 2, at least for the applicant. The first part is the registration on my self-serve. This is the website where they can go to register, and then they need to have a valid email address and a valid social insurance number. Once they have that, then they can complete the application online. The other step is submitting the application and attaching all the documents that they need to provide. If you do not have a valid email address, or the applicant, which is a refugee claimant, does not have a valid email address and they don't have a social insurance number, they will need to contact the ministry. And the ways to contact us is by phone, and the phone number, the general line, is the 1-866-866-0800, or they can go to one of our offices in person, and a ministry office will require a worker override. That's the name we give to the applications that we have to do instead of the online. And then a worker will contact the applicant to complete that application over the phone. And we have language accommodations. That means that we will be providing an interpreter. And for clients that don't speak English, we have other type of accommodations, like if the clients don't have a phone, the client can use the phone for the office, so we will give them an appointment at the office, and the worker will call that number, and we will do the application there. There's other types of accommodation for clients, because at some point I remember having a client that was hard of hearing, so she was deaf, and she was ESL too. So we have language interpreters too, if those are required. The next slide about my self-serve. My self-serve is a secure internet online portal where people receive income or disability assistance. People in receipt of income assistance can obtain 24/7 access to their income and disability assistance information. This is mostly for clients that speak English and have the ability to access a computer and remember, a valid email address. Once they register, they can do things like submit their monthly report, or we call it the STAB, online. They can submit documentation. They can receive or reply to messages from the ministry. They can request or select services online, or see the status of whatever request they might have. Review, sign, or submit their employment plan, and we will talk about the employment plan in one of the next slides. They can also view and print the confirmation of assistance and tax information if they have done their taxes. The next slide shows the main page when they start the process of applying for income assistance. This is what they will see. The next slide shows once they are already in the process of completing that application. As you see on the left side, there are 11 sections on that application. Every section refers to a specific topic. In this case, we are on section 7, which is related to employment history. And if this person was completing this application, this indicator on the right shows that the person has already completed 37% of the application process. The next one is another example. This is a section 8 that is relevant to income. Important to highlight here, you see those wide arrows pointing down. Those, if you click there, you can expand the note, and you can read about specific questions or specific topics within that application. For example, in this case, you can read what is the definition of income according to our legislation, because our legislation is very specific. One of the cases that causes confusion sometimes is marriage-like relationship. What is the definition for us and what is the definition for the client? It might be different. So important that the client or the person helping the client to apply are aware of this and can use this definition as a tool to understand and know exactly what is that we are asking for. Again, the indicator on the left side of the page is showing that this person is already completed 44% of that process. The next slide is a flow of the application process. So it starts with the person or the client applicant registering for my self-serve service. Then they create the BCE ID and user ID. This one will help him or her to access their services via portal at any time. Then they complete the application for assistance. The application, and this is where we start, the ministry workers, we review that application, and at the end we do an eligibility decision. For refugee claimants, if they don't speak English, they don't have a valid social insurance, and they don't have or are not able to use an email address, most likely they will start at number 3 of these columns, which is they apply for assistance, and then they will do what we do, the manual application. Okay. Also, something important maybe to mention here is even though they do a manual application, later on when they feel more comfortable with their English or when they are able to use the computer, sometimes they have children and the children really are very good at that and learn faster, they can always get the BCID and access the portal at any time. Next slide is about the employment plan. So once we have made an eligibility decision and the clients are in receipt or going to start receiving income assistance, they enter in what is the employment plan. Clients and their spouses are expected to take steps to move towards financial independence and of income assistance. Clients and their spouses will enter into an agreement with the ministry by signing an employment plan that is tailored to the circumstances specific to that family. Some of the programs that might be available through the employment plan are English classes, employment programs, community resources. Please note that clients that do not have a valid work permit, and I think this was mentioned before, are not eligible to attend Work BC program, which is the province employment program. That includes not eligible to go to ESL classes until they obtain a valid work permit. That's why it's so important that they do actually apply for it. Their employment program will be focused before the work permit on activities toward independence, and that includes things such as research community resources, finding housing, register the kids at school, and doing all those settlement activities that they have to do at the beginning. That gives them a little bit of time to focus on their needs, and then when they are more ready to work and they have the work permit, then they can go into the employment program. Please note that there are no time limit to income assistance. However, it is expected that clients work toward their financial independence. That means that income assistance doesn't intend to be forever, and it's a transition period. Clients need to move towards financial independence. Um, when clients have significant disabilities, they might also apply for the person with disability designation, known as PWD, at any time. And we were happy to learn that now that ISS has a new clinic, doctors there can provide help with filling the application. If a client situation changes at any time, for example, their income or their immigration status changes, they must let us know. They need to be reassessed by our ministry workers to see if they still meet the eligibility criteria. This happens, for example, when there's new additions to the families, clients have children. They want to make sure that that baby is added to the file, so going to a different rate, they might get a little bit more money. Also, if the clients get married, separated, whatever changes in their circumstances, they need to make sure that they let us know so we can reassess and see what they are eligible for. If refugee claimant applicants are denied their claim and their immigration status change, the client also will be reassessed to ensure that they still meet the eligibility criteria. Clients with unenforceable deportation orders might be eligible for income assistance if other criteria is met, of course, depending on confirmation provided by our IRCC and the Canadian Border Service Agency. We see a lot of cases. I've seen a lot of Cubans, for example, that they have deportation orders in place, but they are unenforceable. Some of them might have work permits, some of them might have not. But if we can confirm that they cannot be deported, they might still be eligible for assistance. Again, it will be case by case assessed. Right? Okay, there are other supplements. The ministry asks eligible recipients and their families to access Ministry of Health Premium Assistance medical coverage through the Medical Service Plan MSP. This medical coverage is provided to recipients of income assistance, hardship assistance, disability assistance, and refugee claimants who meet the MSP residency criteria, and again, in the case of refugee claimants, have a valid work permit. Okay, so we only provide for the coverage. That means we pay for the service, for the premium. We do not really provide service directly because that's provided by the Ministry of Health. They must have a valid work permit. The Ministry of Health PharmaCare also offers the PharmaCare program, and that provides assistance to recipients of income assistance with the cost of purchasing prescription drugs and some medical supplies. Basic dental services are provided also to children or families in receipt of income assistance, employment and assistance. Adults are eligible for emergency dental. Mostly is basically really pain relief. It's very basic. Health supplements are also available through the ministry, and those might include diet supplements. This is, for example, when people that have diabetes, they might be eligible for diet supplements, infant formula, medical transportation. With, let's say, clients are going on dialysis 3 times a week or 4 times a week, they might be eligible for medical transportation, natal supplements for pregnant women, optical supplements, and supplements for alcohol and drug treatment. These are just some of the medical supplements that might be available for clients. Temporary child benefit top-up supplement, we also call it family bonus top-up. I mean, many names because this name has been changing by Revenue Canada, but basically the temporary child benefit top-up supplement is available to refugee claimants and clients in Canada under a temporary resident permit. The temporary child benefit top-up supplement might be provided until the client meets the 18-month residency requirement. Once they meet the 18-month residency requirement, we might ask the client to prove that they have applied and that they have done their taxes, because that's what Canada Revenue Agency requires in order to approve that child tax benefit. Um, So subsequently, to fulfill the residency requirements, eligible for the temporary child benefits top-up supplement is based on the eligibility is based on their taxes. So if they are low income, the Revenue Canada agency actually is the one calculating how much they are gonna get for each child. This is um the rate table for that family bonus or child benefit top-up. For the first child is up to 195.02 per calendar month. Second child is up to 172.54 per calendar month, and the third and each additional child is up to 164.18 per calendar month. Please note that this amount can vary based on the child's age, and they are set by Revenue Canada agency. We have no control over those. So sometimes when you give these rates to the client, they might be a little bit different if the kids are already close to 18 or very young. Crisis supplements are subject to limitations set out in regulation. A crisis supplement might be available to provide recipients who face unexpected emergency needs with a one-time payment to prevent imminent danger to the physical health or the removal of a child under the Child, Family, and Community Service Act. What this says is this is meant to be for an emergency that is unexpected and is a one-time only. The type of crisis supplements that we have are, for example, crisis supplement for food. The maximum that we allocate, it could be $20 per month per person. The crisis supplement for clothing, the maximum can be up to $100 per person for 12 months calendar period, and up to a maximum of $400 per family unit. Crisis supplement for shelter, the maximum is up to the maximum shelter allowance that the person is receiving. That means if it's a single person and the maximum amount they receive for rent is $375, the maximum crisis supplement that they can get for shelter is $375, cannot be more than that. There's also crisis supplement for essential utilities, and there are other crisis supplements, but these are the most common ones. These are the income, hardship, and disability rates. So for a single person in receipt of regular assistance, it will be $335 for support, that's pretty much food, and $375 for shelter or rent. The total of amount for a single person is $710. For a single recipient who is a person with disabilities, the maximum amount for support is $758.52. For rent is $375. That the total is $1,133.52 a month. And for a single recipient that is over 65 years of age and is not a person with disabilities, the maximum that they can receive is $631.42 for support and up to $375 for rent. Okay. The last slide is just a screenshot of the form that is very important, especially for service providers that are helping clients to apply for assistance or access our service. This is a consent form, and we have two types of consent. One is consent to request information, and the other is called request service on behalf of the client. I have sent those forms to Bahar, and she can share with you guys later after the webinar. Make sure if you are calling on behalf of your client that you have asked the client to sign this consent and it's already in the file. Otherwise, we will not be able to talk to you about or discuss the file because we have to protect the information, right? Also, if you are requesting services on behalf of the client, which is different, make sure you also have signed consent. Now, if the client is there with you, they can provide verbal consent, but it's a one-time only. So if you call again next day, we might not be able to help you. Okay? So that's all I have for now.
Great. Thank you so much, Claudia. We really appreciate your time. To all the attendees, thank you for joining us today. We will be emailing everyone an online evaluation form, so please do take the time to complete it as we rely on the feedback provided in those evaluations to plan future events and trainings. A special thank you to our speakers from Settlement Orientation Services, as well as the Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction for giving us their time and expertise to help support the settlement sector in supporting refugee claimants. And thank you to our team here and the office, Khan, Bahar, and Sabrina. And again, the BC Refugee Hub would like to gratefully acknowledge the financial support of the province of British Columbia through the Ministry of Jobs, Trade, and Technology. We will be posting the presentations and resources on the BC Refugee Hub website at bcrefugeehub.ca. Thanks, everyone, and have a wonderful afternoon.